Adventures in the Enchanted Slumberwood. Once upon a time, in the very heart of the Enchanted Slumberwood, lived a little rabbit named Fluffy. He wasn't just any rabbit, he was a very, very curious rabbit. His nose was always twitching, sniffing out new scents, and his ears caught the quietest rustles. Fluffy's fur was the color of honey, and his eyes sparkled like 2 dewdrops on morning grass. He lived in a cozy burrow under the roots of the ancient oak of wisdom, and every evening his mother, Soft Paw the rabbit, read him bedtime stories. Soft Paw was gentle and caring, her fur a deep brown, and her paws always smelled of fresh hay. She loved her son dearly and tried to protect him from all dangers. One evening, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet, Fluffy sat at the entrance of his burrow, watching the last rays of sunlight filter through the leaves. "Mom, what's out there, beyond this forest?" Fluffy asked, pointing with a paw towards distant, barely visible hills. Soft Paw sighed and hugged her little son. "Out there, Fluffy, is a big world. But it's not always as kind as our Slumberwood. There are tall mountains, deep rivers, and even big cities where humans live. Is it scary there?" Fluffy's curious eyes widened. "Not exactly scary, but there's a lot that's new and unknown," Soft Paw replied. "Our forest is our home, our peace. Good creatures live here, and we can always rely on each other." Fluffy pondered this. He loved his home, but his little heart always yearned for adventure. Deep down, he dreamed of seeing what lay beyond the familiar forest. The next morning, while the forest dwellers were still asleep and the first rays of sun were just beginning to pierce through the treetops, Fluffy decided to embark on a small journey. He wanted to find the highest strawberry patch that Old Mole Grumpy had talked about. Grumpy was a grumpy but very wise mole, and his glasses were constantly slipping down his nose. He knew all the secret paths of the forest but rarely shared them. "Grumpy, where's the biggest strawberry patch?" Fluffy had once asked. A strawberry patch, you say?" Grumpy mumbled, adjusting his glasses. "There is one. Beyond Crystal Stream, then past the 3 ancient pines, and you'll see it. But don't go there, it's too far for you, little one." But Fluffy had already memorized it. And so, that morning, he packed a small bundle with a couple of carrots, said goodbye to his still sleeping mother, leaving her a note, "Mommy, I'm off to Crystal Stream. I'll be back soon," and set off. Along the way, he met Rusty the squirrel, who was deftly leaping through branches, tossing his favorite pinecone from paw to paw. Rusty was very energetic and cheerful, his reddish fur shimmered in the sun, and his bushy tail twitched constantly with impatience. "Hi, Fluffy. Where are you off to so early?" Rusty chirped, scrambling down a tree trunk. "Hi, Rusty. I'm going to Crystal Stream, and then to the 3 ancient pines. I want to find the biggest strawberry patch." Fluffy replied proudly. Rusty blinked in surprise. "Wow. That's far. Do you even know what might be out there?" "Nope, but it's super interesting." Fluffy twitched his nose. "I'd go with you, but I need to gather nuts. My mom, Guardian Squirrel, is waiting for winter supplies," the little squirrel said, his ears drooping sadly. Guardian Squirrel was strict but fair, with gray fur and very nimble paws. She always made sure the forest was orderly and all supplies were secure. "Well, all right, see you then." Fluffy waved his paw and moved on. The path to Crystal Stream wasn't long. Fluffy happily hopped across the stones, crossing the gurgling water. The stream was clear and cool, its bottom strewn with colorful pebbles. Beyond the stream, a denser part of the forest began. The trees here were taller, and the sun's rays barely penetrated the canopies, creating whimsical shadows. Fluffy followed a path he felt he had never seen before. Suddenly, he heard a quiet whimpering. He listened intently. The whimpering came from behind a large blackberry bush. Carefully pushing aside the branches, Fluffy saw a tiny squeaky mouse. She sat huddled, paws pressed to her nose, trembling. Squeaky Mouse's fur was gray, and her beady eyes were full of tears. She was very timid and often got lost. "Squeaky, what's wrong?" Fluffy asked, concerned. The mouse flinched and lifted her head. "Oh, Fluffy. I'm lost. I was picking berries, and then I don't know where to go. And also, I think I saw some big shadows." She started crying again. Fluffy, despite his young age, always tried to be brave. "Don't be scared, Squeaky. We'll definitely find our way. Tell me, where did you see the shadows?" "There." The mouse pointed a trembling paw deeper into the forest. "They were so tall and dark. I got scared and ran away." Fluffy felt his heart beat faster. He remembered his mom's words about the big world and how it wasn't always safe. But he couldn't leave the mouse alone. "Come with me, Squeaky," he said. "We'll look for the 3 ancient pines. They're very tall, you can see them from afar, and they always point the right way." Squeaky Mouse pressed against Fluffy. "Really? You won't leave me?" "Of course not. We're friends." Fluffy smiled and offered Squeaky one of his carrots. "Here, eat this to gain some strength." The mouse took the carrot, and her small face brightened a little. Together, they moved on. The deeper they went, the denser the forest became. The trees seemed to grow taller, their branches intertwining overhead, creating a perpetual twilight. Fluffy tried to remain calm, but his ears twitched constantly, trying to catch every sound. Squeaky Mouse walked behind him, clinging to the edge of his fur. Suddenly, Fluffy stumbled upon something strange. On the ground lay a large, shimmering, but very old book. Its cover was covered in moss, and its pages were slightly yellowed with age. Fluffy carefully touched it with his paw. "Oh! What's that?" Squeaky Mouse whispered. "Some kind of book," Fluffy replied. "I wonder whose it is." He tried to open it, but it was very heavy. Just then, Wise Owl appeared from behind the bushes. He was very old, his feathers gray, and his eyes, hidden behind thick spectacles, looked very intently. Wise Owl was the most intelligent inhabitant of the Slumberwood. "What are you little ones doing here?" Wise Owl hooted. His voice was deep and slightly hoarse. Fluffy and Squeaky jumped in surprise. "Wise Owl!" Fluffy exclaimed. We were looking for the strawberry patch, and Squeaky got lost," and we found this book." Wise Owl landed on the ground and looked closely at the book. "Ah, that's the Book of Old Secrets. It belonged to the wise owl who lived here many, many years ago. It contains all the knowledge of the Slumberwood and even more." "Why is it here?" Squeaky Mouse asked, peeking timidly from behind Fluffy. "Because only someone truly brave and kind of heart can open it," Wise Owl replied. "Many have tried, but it would not yield to them. Apparently, it rests well here." Fluffy tried to open the book again. It opened slightly. Inside were pictures and strange symbols. "Whoa! It's opening!" Fluffy exclaimed. Wise Owl blinked in surprise. "It can't be. So, you, Fluffy, are truly brave and kind. Well, that's good. But be careful. This book is not just a book. It can show you many things, but it can also demand something in return." At that moment, a small glowing moth flew out of the book. It was transparent, and its wings shimmered with all the colors of the rainbow. The moth circled around Fluffy, then flew forward. "Oh! What's that?" Squeaky Mouse hid behind Fluffy. "That's the spirit of knowledge," Wise Owl explained. "It will show you the way, but only if you pay attention to its clues." Fluffy felt a surge of courage. "We'll follow it. Maybe it will lead us to the 3 ancient pines." Wise Owl shook his head. "Well, so be it. But remember, the forest holds many secrets. Be careful." The moth flew slowly, as if inviting them to follow. Fluffy and Squeaky Mouse went after it. They walked deeper and deeper into the forest, which became more and more mysterious. The trees here were so old that their trunks were covered with a thick layer of moss. It seemed as if no animal's paw had ever stepped here. Soon, the moth led them to a small clearing. In the middle of the clearing stood the 3 ancient pines. They were so tall that their tops were lost somewhere in the clouds. Their trunks were covered with thick, wrinkled bark, and their branch paws were covered with cones. These pines were silent witnesses to many generations of forest dwellers. "Hooray! We're here!" Squeaky Mouse rejoiced. "We're almost there." Fluffy felt proud. The moth flew up to one of the pines and stopped, shimmering. Then it dissolved into the air, leaving behind a faint glow. A small glowing mark appeared on the trunk of the pine. Fluffy carefully touched it. Suddenly, an image appeared before him. It was a map. The map showed the way to a strawberry patch. But not the one that was the biggest. This was another patch, very small, hidden behind a waterfall. "Strange," Fluffy mumbled. Grumpy said it was a different patch. "Maybe it's a trap." Squeaky Mouse squeaked nervously. Fluffy looked at the map. He felt he had to trust the spirit of knowledge. "No, Squeaky, I think it's a clue. Let's try going there." They followed the path indicated on the map. The road led through thickets of bushes and a small stream. Soon, they heard the sound of water. Around a bend, through the dense foliage, a waterfall appeared. Water fell from a small height, crashing against the rocks below. And behind the waterfall was a small, but very cozy clearing. And on it, among the green grass, grew the biggest, ripest, and juiciest strawberries Fluffy had ever seen. They were larger than usual, bright red, and so alluring with their aroma. Oh! So many strawberries! Squeaky Mouse squeaked with delight and immediately began gathering berries in her paws. Fluffy was also amazed. He tried one berry. It was incredibly sweet. Wise Owl was right, he thought. This book didn't open just for nothing. They picked berries until their bellies were round. Fluffy thought of his mom. How happy she would be with such delicious berries. At that moment, as they were about to head back, a rustling sound came from behind the bushes. From the thicket emerged a huge grumpy bear. He was shaggy, with large claws and a very displeased expression on his face. Grumpy Bear was the largest and strongest inhabitant of the forest, but he rarely showed himself. Everyone was afraid of him. Squeaky Mouse fainted from fright. Fluffy froze. "What are you doing here?" Grumpy Bear roared. His voice was so loud that the leaves on the trees trembled. "This is my strawberry patch. And you've eaten it all." Fluffy, though trembling with fear, gathered his courage. He remembered Wise Owl's words about bravery. "Excuse us, Mr. Bear," Fluffy said, trying to speak as calmly as possible. "We didn't know this was your patch. We were just following the spirit of knowledge, and it led us here." Grumpy Bear frowned. "Spirit of knowledge? I don't know any spirit of knowledge. All I know is my strawberries are disappearing." Fluffy thought quickly. He remembered his mom always saying to be kind to everyone. "Mr. Bear," Fluffy said, "we are very sorry. We can gather more strawberries for you. We didn't eat all of them. And we found a lot of big, juicy ones." He offered the bear some of the largest berries. Grumpy Bear looked at the berries. He hadn't expected such boldness from a little rabbit. He cautiously took one berry and tasted it. His eyes widened. This really is very tasty," the bear grumbled. "I haven't found such large berries even in my own patch." "Do you know why?" Fluffy became bolder. "We found this patch with a clue from the Book of Old Secrets, which the Spirit of Knowledge opened. It said this patch was special." Grumpy Bear became interested. He always considered himself the strongest, but he had never thought about such things. "Book of Secrets? Spirit of Knowledge," he grumbled. "What kind of fairy tales are those?" "They're not fairy tales," a tiny voice interrupted from Squeaky Mouse, who had come to and was now timidly peeking from behind Fluffy. The mouse, who was always afraid of everything, told the bear. Wise Owl himself said so. Grumpy Bear looked at them. He was used to everyone fearing him and running away. But these two, though very small, stood before him and talked calmly. "All right then," said the bear. "Since you're so brave and generous, you can gather some more for yourselves. And I'll think about these spirits of knowledge of yours." Fluffy and Squeaky rejoiced. They quickly picked more berries and hurried back. Grumpy Bear watched them leave, then started to sample his own berries, which, as it turned out, weren't nearly as tasty as Fluffy's. He even smiled a little. The journey home was joyful. Fluffy and Squeaky Mouse chattered non-stop, telling each other about their adventures. "I never thought I could be so brave," the mouse rejoiced. And I didn't know Grumpy Bear was so not grumpy when he eats strawberries. Fluffy laughed. When they returned to Fluffy's burrow, the sun was already setting. Softpaw was sitting at the entrance, very worried. "Fluffy, where have you been? I was so worried." Softpaw rushed to her son and hugged him tightly. "Mommy, I found the most delicious strawberries." Fluffy held out a large leaf full of berries. "And Squeaky and I had such an adventure. We met Wise Owl, the Book of Old Secrets, the Spirit of Knowledge, and even Grumpy Bear." Squeaky Mouse confirmed with a nod. Softpaw listened to their story, her eyes wide. She couldn't have imagined her little Fluffy had experienced such things. "My brave boy," she said, kissing his nose. "I'm proud of you. But please, next time, warn me in advance." "I promise, Mommy." Fluffy smiled. From that day on, Fluffy became even more curious, but also much wiser. He understood that the world was full of amazing things, and that bravery isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to act when you're scared. He learned to be kind even to those who seem mean, and he realized that friendship and mutual help are the most important things in life. Squeaky Mouse stopped being so timid. She began to come out of her burrow more often and even befriended Rusty the Squirrel, helping him gather nuts. As for Grumpy Bear, he sometimes came to that small clearing behind the waterfall and quietly ate the most delicious strawberries. And sometimes, very rarely, he even smiled, remembering the brave little rabbit and his frightened friend. The Slumberwood continued to live its peaceful life, but now it held even more friendship and understanding, thanks to a small curious rabbit named Fluffy, who dared to step beyond the boundaries of his cozy world.